Representative Berman has introduced a bill requiring English to be the official language of the state of Texas. What are your views on that?
Well, Mr. Berman, I think, misspoke when he said none of us are from south of the border. I'm the son of immigrants. My mother is from Mexico City. My father's from northern Spain. And Spanish has been part of the Texas history for ever since the foundation of this of this state. In fact, it's really interesting. I'm reading Stephen F. Austin's biography, and he actually renounced his U.S. citizenship to become a Mexican citizen, served in the Mexican state legislature after he came to what was then Texas y Coahuila from Tennessee. So there's a long tradition of this being a region that embraces bilingualism. We don't want to go the way of California under Pete Wilson and do a Prop 187. We saw how divisive and damaging that was. I think English-only legislation just distracts from what is a broader question of failed leadership, frankly. And it's failed leadership on a $27 billion budget. There was no undocumented immigrant that created a $27 billion budget, $10 billion of which was created as a result of the tax swap that we did in 2006. And there was no illegal immigrant that was a Wall Street banker that created the collapse of our financial system worldwide. So, I mean, we frequently, when we don't want to own unpopular political decisions, and when we don't want to face up to our shortcomings in leadership, I think Representative Berman called it right. Yes, there are 28 statewide Republican elected officials, and guess what? We've got a $27 billion shortfall under their watch that they created when they've been in control. So the next thing they want to do is blame it on Jose and Maria, the illegal immigrant. I tell you, none of them was on the House floor when we were voting on the failed tax swap in 2006. Yet they're receiving all the blame for it.
You're shaking your head.
I'm shaking my head because I'm amazed that the blame for this 25, or I think it's 20 now, 10 for each year, that the blame is being put on the Texas Republicans when you got a man in the White House by the name of Obama who spent $876 billion trying to straighten out the economy and create jobs in his very first year in office, and nothing has happened yet. And now we're $14.3 trillion in debt, and the bulk of that was spent by Barack Obama in Washington. So to say that Republican tax swap, the franchise tax for the property tax was a $10 billion shortfall this year, no, that's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Isn't that the overall problem, the national budget
Well, it's
deficit?
really funny. It's really funny to me because, you know, if you can't blame it on the immigrant, blame it on the president, right? The president has nothing to do with this $27 billion deficit at the state level. It was the Republicans in control here at the state level that did the tax swap, that missed on the revenue estimate, and now we find ourselves in this hole. In fact, the irony is that if it hadn't been for the stimulus package last session, which Republicans gladly took $16 billion of last session to balance the budget, we wouldn't have the $10 billion in the rainy day fund today to help balance the budget this session.
You want another stimulus package from Washington?
You know, I don't think it's necessary, frankly. I think we can take a balanced approach to this session, but to blame our current budget problems in the state level on Barack Obama, the president, at the federal level is, I think, a little. I think is stretching credibility.
We were the last ones to feel Barack Obama's economic program, and we're going to be the first ones coming out of it. And let me go back just for a minute, Robert, to this English-only language thing. Raphael, you didn't read the bill. The bill says that only things printed by the state of Texas will be printed in one language, and that's going to save millions of dollars. It's not going to affect English as a second language in school or dual language in school. It's not going to affect the ballot. That's controlled under the Federal Elections Code. English as the official language of Texas is just what our state is producing. What we're printing, we print it in English only, and there are millions of dollars saved. I'm getting the number from the comptroller right now. But to speak it on the street, aprendí español en la escuela para 2 años, pero me olvido la lengua porque no tengo amigos que hablan español conmigo. I love Spanish. And I'm a first-generation immigrant myself. I am. My parents came from Europe. but the right way, through Ellis Island. They did it legally. They got nothing from the federal government, nothing at all. They went into business, they learned the language, they got their citizenship, and they made this country the great country that it is. Within the law.
Aren't you afraid we could turn into a situation like they have in Canada with Quebec speaking French and all the confusion among the people?
You know, it's funny because all the statistics show, all the
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All the statistics show that when you get to that second generation of American immigrant, that language skills in the native language of your parents significantly diminish. And by the third generation, it's gone. So I don't fear any Quebec situation in Texas or another state in the United States. Our culture and our popular culture is entirely too strong. So yet another reason not to major in the minors on this kind of English-only legislation. Much of the dual language materials that we print in this state relate to the ballot box and relate to eligibility criteria. I know it may surprise Representative Berman that there are Texans and Americans who have been living in this country for a long, long time legally who prefer to receive their information in Spanish, Vietnamese, or some other language. If you go to San Francisco, Chinese. And it's not offensive to America. In fact, it's a salute to America that we do so well with this melting pot that we have. And frankly, my view on English-only legislation is that, again, it attempts to distract from the broader issues that we have in this state and in this country, and specifically with respect to Texas, it's the budget that we can't ignore, we can't get away from. I also find it ironic that many of the enforcement agencies under these anti-immigrant bills are going to be cut 20, 30, 50, 80% in the current base budget. So what we're going to be asking folks to enforce state laws on top of underfunded and underenforced federal laws, and that's just a recipe for disaster.